I want to go ahead and just get started off, just basically starting right where we left off from last week. And we are continuing the 400 years are over. That is the topic of this particular Bible study. But one thing I wanted to mention, a couple of things, because there were some things that the Most High showed me. So we're going to talk about Egypt really quick. Last week we talked about Egypt and the 400 years. We were looking at Egypt, and we wanted to talk about Egypt for a minute because we know that, but all the records show that we were there not 400 years and not even close to what Genesis 15 discussed. But what does Egypt mean? What does it mean? We talked about last week it being bondage, and we know that the Most High called in Exodus, he called Egypt the house of bondage. But what does the word itself mean? Let's look at what it means so we can kind of understand. I'm going to go ahead and read this one right here, tag one, and then as we go down, I'll need your assistance. But it says, what does Egypt mean? So then there's a Hebrew right there with the Hebrew writing. As we know, when you read Hebrew, you're going from right to left, right? Transliteration, Mizraim, basically Upper and Lower Egypt. Who is he? He's one of the sons of Ham. So when we look at the three sons of Noah, which we know as Ham, Shem, and Japheth, or Japheth, Ham is one of the sons, right? It could also mean the bordering of a land, right? So we know that years past in ancient times, Upper and Lower Egypt, right? Egypt, does it mean bondage? The English name Egypt comes from the Greek word Egyptos, which was the Greek pronunciation of the ancient Egyptian name Hakapatua, meaning mansions of the spirit of Patua, pronounced Patua. Hakapatua, also pronounced Hawikapatua, was originally the name of the city of Memphis, Egypt's first capital city and a significant and religious trade center. The Greeks may have mispronounced his name, leading to Egyptos or Egyptos. The word passed through Middle French and Latin before arriving in English. Homer used Egyptos in the Odyssey, indicating that it was in use by the 8th century BC. So who was Patua? Patua was a chief deity in the ancient city of Memphis, predating the first dynasty that was established circa 3100 BC. He was worshipped as the patron god of craftsmen and makers of things, and was said to be the architect of the universe, creating all that is and that ever will be. Ancient Egyptian creation stories claim that Patua could create anything, including other gods. He would first imagine them in his heart, then use his voice to breathe life into them. He went on to create other creatures from metal, stone, and wood, and establish towns, religious shrines, and ceremonies for worship. In Memphis, Patua was the head of the triad of deities, along with Sekhmet, his companion, and the young god Nefertim, who was likely their son. Due to the political importance of Memphis, Patua's following eventually expanded across the whole of Egypt. The ancient Egyptians also referred to their country as Kemet, which means black land. This name likely comes from the rich, dark soil left behind the Nile River annual flood in August. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up because last week we needed to clarify that. And because I think I said Egypt was bondage, we see now what it means and where it came from. We know the original word from a biblical standpoint, and truly the origins of that land is Mitzrayim, the son of Ham. Eventually that would become known as the Greeks came in, and they renamed it Egyptos, which eventually became Egypt. And then there was Kemet as well. Okay. So remember, Egypt was a very, very big empire, very ancient empire. But the origins come directly from the Bible, directly from the son of who? Ham. We know that because we can look in extra biblical text, historical documents. We see Hamites in the land. So Mitzrayim came from Ham. Where does this bondage come from with the 400 years of bondage? The Most High called it the house of bondage in Exodus. He called it the house of bondage. And so it became known as a place where we were in bondage. And remember last week, he said, you're going to go off to Egypt again. What do you think he was talking about? He was talking about you're going to go back into bondage. And as we're going to see here, when you do go back into bondage, you're going to be serving those idol gods, those false gods, those man-made gods. That's what he told us. Okay? Okay, 400 years and its meaning. Okay, so last week, Val's sister asked a very good question about the 400 years. And she asked, what does it mean? We always want to look at things from a biblical standpoint. Then you should always think about what do you know about what the Most High has said about that thing. Not what do I say? What is my mind thinking? No, it is what does the Bible have to say about that particular thing you're talking about. When we look at 400 years and its meaning, the Hebrew letter Tav, which is a sign. It's a sign of a cross. It's a sign of a cross or a covenant. So this is the alphabet. Okay, you want to know where the alphabet comes from? Well, alphabet is Greek. It comes, alpha is Greek. Bet. But the origins of really language, in my mind, from the research I've done, comes from Hebrew, is aleph bet. Somebody say aleph bat. And then the Greeks got a hold of it and said, we're going to call it alphabet. So here we see what the letters look like. The ancient, the paleo, and the modern as you go down. In the Hebrew, aleph, bet, gamil, dalet, ha, wa, hava, zayin. Okay, well, let's look at those real quick. We're just going to look at those, and then we have the signs of what the letters look like. They actually look like the ancient letters right here. This is what they look like. Kind of like cuneiform. Some people will say this is cuneiform. Well, this is even more ancient than cuneiform. This paleo is more of the cuneiform. If you look over here at paleo came after the ancient. The ancient looks like little pictographs, okay? The aleph sound is the ox. What does it mean? It means God. The first letter in the alphabet, it means Elohim, creator. First, strength, leader, Yah, it means Lord. King, sovereign, that's the first letter. That's what it means. Every letter means something. This is not like English. And then every letter has a number value to it right here. So if we go down to the end of the alphabet, some people might say alphabet, but if you come all the way down here to 400, it's the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and the last letter is Tav. It says cross. It means what? Cross. And sure enough, in paleo, it's a little cross right there. You see where we get the T from in English? This is way before English, people. Way before English, family, right? Tav right here, T. It looks like a T, sorry, but it has that sound, ta, ta, ta. And over here you have the paleo, which is another cross. It looks like an X. We know all about this with the eclipse that just happened because there was an X that was formed from the last eclipse, the last big major eclipse in this eclipse we just had. It formed an X across America. I wonder if that was coincidence. No, because he says there's a sign over here, right? And then, of course, this is the modern Hebrew right here. If you go back over here, what does it mean? Gina's asking that question. What does it mean? 400 years? Why 400 years? Covenant. Covenant. Sign. Perfection. Ownership. Seal. And as you learn the Bible, you're going to see these words are very, very important. The biggest word for 400 is covenant. And we're going to see as we go into scripture what that's all about. Remember last week we were talking about covenant. The Most High was showing us about covenant quite a bit. But the 400 years is, yes, there was judgment in there. But why did he use 400? Because what? It's perfection. It's covenant. Then he puts his seal on it because he got a seal on his people, right? He owns the people. The sign. It's over. It's signed. The sign is done. 400 years. 1619, 2019, 400. We're not going to have time tonight, but we're going to look at next week what has happened since 2019 in the world, especially in reference to his people. When you want to know what the Most High is doing, you always follow his people. When we look at the Bible, we're reading about his people. So as the world turns, like that soap opera used to say, it's as the people go. It's as, if you want to say, as the people turn or whatever. We want to turn from sin. As the people turn from, that's repentance, turning from the sin. But as the people turn, it's not as the world turn, it's as the people turn. That is the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. So you need to understand that. Somebody ever asked you, what is the Bible all about? About his people and salvation, repentance, turning from sin, the whole bit. Okay, moving on. 400 years, right? Okay, the covenant with his people. We just saw where 400 means covenant. What does covenant mean? We're going to see that. The covenant with his people. The book of Deuteronomy comes from Deuteronomy 29. And pertaining to the covenant, Deuteronomy 29:12 reads that you should enter into covenant with Yah, your Elohim, and into his oath, which Yah, your Elohim, makes with you this day, that he may establish you today for a people unto himself, and that he may be unto you, Elohim, as he has said unto you, and as he has sworn unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that stands here with us this day before Yah, our Elohim, and also him that is not here with us this day. So here the Most High is telling us that he's making a covenant with us that he may establish a people unto himself. That just like he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this covenant. So covenants means an agreement, a pledge that is binding. The Most High here is telling us he's making a promise to us. A promise. So let's see what's in that promise. What's in that? It could also mean contract. Look at it as like a contract. If you were to go buy a house, or if you were going to buy anything, any kind of like try to, maybe buy a car or something, and you have to sign an agreement, that is a covenant. You are putting your stamp on that saying, yes, I'm going to do what it stipulates. And if you don't do what it says, then you're going to be held accountable according to what the covenant says, how it's written. It's an agreement, a contract between two, and it's also a promise. Let's look at the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, because this is what's called the law, the Torah. That's where the covenant is. These are everlasting. They will not be done away with. They're forever, as we're going to see. There is no reneging on these. The covenant stands, especially for us who are Messianic Hebrews, Messianic Jews, or from Yehudi, right? We learned that last week, our Yehuda, and which people call Jews. But we are Messianic. So this is very important for us to understand. And as we read here, we're going to see, who does this apply to? What group of people around the world does this sound like? Okay, Deuteronomy 28.
Okay. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yah thy Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out.
Remember, we're talking about the 400 years, the 400 years being are over. We know now 400 means covenant. If you observe to do my commandments, is what Yah tells us here. If you observe my commandments and my statutes, which I command you this day, what? These curses will not come upon you or overtake you. So now right there tells us, if we could just keep all his commandments, it says if you would observe to do. So you might hear some people say keep his commandments, but it says if you to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, if you don't hearken to my voice and you do not do them, all these curses are going to come upon you. And then as Tagon read, you're going to be cursing the city, cursing the field, basket's going to be cursed, your fruits of your body are going to be cursed, your cattle if you're a farmer, which we know are people going all the way back thousands of years, have been known to be farmers. Them as well cursed, your sheep as well. You will come in being cursed, you will go out being cursed. Moving on. This is so important. That's why I'm just going over these things again, because I want to make sure we get it. This is so important.
Okay. Yah shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew. And they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron.
The people are going to be sick, right? Fevers and inflammation and all those things. Now, when we look at throughout history at our people, it's definitely true. And it says here that your heaven, which is above you, right, will be brass, and your earth will be iron. The earth that is under you will be iron. It's not like that good Midwest weather out there, because this gold, they call it, what do they call the soil out there? Gold soil. And we know that this is exactly what happened according to the word, that the land became desolate. And moving on.
Yah shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away.
Some of these, we've been going through these things for a long time. We can see the accounts of when Rome came into Israel and laid it to siege. When the Assyrians came in, same thing. When the Babylonians came in, same thing. So just know that these things happen already. They did happen even here in this land, in this 400 years of this particular captivity as well. Okay.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand.
Okay, so when dealing with the people, and who are the people, who can qualify for 400 years, many group of people have kind of been through this right here. We know for certain, and we have. But one thing you want to always remember is that you have to stack the things on top of one another, these experiences, because not everybody has had that. When I was reading about the Korea, how Korea, they had slavery. Everywhere has had slavery for hundreds, if not thousands of years, right? I mean, they've had it. But when it comes to going on ships, as we're going to see, going all over the world, being scattered to the 4 corners, you're going to be everywhere. That's just 2 examples where you can narrow things down. Now, what group of people, who is that? So here is telling us you are going to marry a woman, you're going to marry your wife, and another man will lie with her. You will build a house, and you will not dwell therein. You will plant vineyards, and you will not gather the grapes thereof, right? And your sons and daughters will be given to another people. So your sons and daughters are also going to be given to another people. Now, as we read about the experiences of the Hebrews coming out of, in this particular 400 years, because that's what we're talking about in this particular Bible study, the 400 years coming out of Spain, coming out of Portugal, we saw this very thing happening. Then going into the west coast of Africa, okay, New Guinea, and going down into the Congo, going into Nigeria, going up into Sierra Leone, all of those areas, the children were ripped from their parents and taken away to never be seen again by their parents, okay? We're talking about the entire west coast of Africa, all the way up to Spain, okay? We're talking about the east coast as well. We talked about that last week. So just keep that in mind as we're moving on here.
Okay. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
Now, one thing to remember too is when I say Spain and I say Portugal and Nigeria, and when I say the out of Ghana, all up and down the west coast of Africa and the east coast. But if we want to focus on the west coast, because that's where a lot of us came from, our ancestors. When you look at those, it's always Jewish as the description of the people. We have books upon books, and I'm going to list those resources next week. This Deuteronomy is so long, there's no way we have time for it tonight. Next week we're going to list there's a lot of resources, too many, written by who? By Caucasian men, that talks about who those people were that came out of Spain, who those people were that came out of Nigeria, Ghana, Portugal. How are they characterized? They are characterized as those black Jews. So our information is stacks on stacks on stacks of evidence to narrow down who are those people that the Bible is talking about, that Deuteronomy 28 is talking about. Okay? It's a lot.
Okay. Yah shall bring thee, and thy king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither Yah shall lead thee.
Again, there are some things that only qualify for a certain group of people. That's what we want to always remember, because some people might come up to you with that foolery, like one of our cousins like to say bumfoolery. They'll come up to you with some of that bumfoolery, and they'll tell you, you know how many groups have went off into slavery with that? But you're missing the unique. The Most High is very specific. He doesn't leave anything out. Did your people go through this? No. Then you are not qualified. If you're saying your people didn't go through this, you don't qualify. I mean, I hate to be like that, but it has nothing to do with them. It reads here that you're gonna go and you're gonna serve other gods, wood and stone. We know we've done that. But look at this one. This one is the one I want to show more than anything. That you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among who? Among all the nations where Yah will lead you. Of course, the Most High told us that he would lead us to the four corners of the earth. E1B1A, you're going to find that in our DNA. And there was one geneticist who said, I'm going to have to find that because I want to make sure I quote these things properly. But there are not many populated areas around the earth. And I find somebody that's E1B1A. You can go to Germany. You can go to Norway. He says he's going to make you a proverb, a byword. You know what that means? That means you're going to be called everything but what you are. If you notice, everywhere we go, they have a name for us. They have a name for us. There's some people that would be honest, but the majority of them are giving us all kind of other names. I don't even want to talk about the names. You guys know. So it says you're going to be an astonishment. People are going to be astonished by you. What does that mean? They're going to be like, oh, wow. A proverb, a byword. In other words, everything to describe you other than who you are, right? These other secondary secular words to describe you. What other people group on the earth can qualify for that? What tribe? Is the Most High's word a lie? Absolutely not, because we've lived it and experienced it. All right, moving on.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Some of the same right here. In other words, you'll have children, sons and daughters. You're not going to enjoy them because they're going to go off into captivity. This, again, is the 400 years. This is the covenant. Now, there's great and precious promises. We're going to do that for another entire different Bible study. The blessings of Deuteronomy 28. In the beginning, it talks about all the blessings if you follow the commandments, his laws, statutes, and commandments. You can do what he tells you to do. If you do that and observe those things, to do all of those things, right? You're going to get blessed. The blessings are just beautiful. And we have experienced that. The history books tell us that. The Bible tells us that we experienced the blessings, but when we fell away, this is what happened, because God is not a man that he should lie. If he tells your people, he said, I made you as a people for my own. We read it. about the covenant. If Abba, who is our father, Hebrew word Abba, if Abba is telling us, our father is telling us he's going to do something, you can trust and believe, especially when it pertains to his people. He will lend to you and you will not lend to him. Who does that sound like? He will be the head and you will be the tail. Who is he? It's a question you want to ask yourself. Who is he? Not us, right? Somebody wicked and evil. I'll give you a hint, right? But he will lend to you. It says he will give you a loan and you will not loan anything to him. He will be the head. You will be the tail. Wow. Can we continue with that one?
Okay. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkened not unto the voice of Yah, thy Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee.
There again, he's telling us that because you didn't keep the commandments. So last week we talked about being judged. Oh, yeah, you're going to be judged, but really it's in a covenant. So there's a kind of a different type of thing with a judgment. You remember Yehoshua? He would always say, is it not written? Every time they would come up and ask him, the Messiah, they would come up and ask him questions about the Bible. He said, is it not written? Is it not written? How many times did we read that as he walked here on earth? When it's written, you can count on that one, that it's going to happen. To keep the commandments and the statutes and which he commanded. Not everybody, let me just say this, not everybody is going to receive this because they don't have the relationship with the Most High. They don't read their Bible, etc., etc. But we know that this is true because we just read it. You can go back and read it yourself. I want you guys really to do that. Every time we go in the Bible study, I want you to go back to your Bible, read it, study it, to make sure that I'm not giving you anything that's off. Because it's not about me, it's about him and what he is doing in this day and time. We got to be moving with our Abba. We got to be moving with our Father.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not Yah, your Elohim, with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things.
Ooh, stop right there. Stop right there. My goodness. We're almost finished. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness, Most High. Praise you. He is not, if he's not telling us exactly what we need to hear, he says, because he said, we saw the 400 years means a sign. We saw it in the Hebrew. The word 400, the number 400 is the T, is the Tav, right? I said T, sorry, the Tav, which means a sign. He says, and they will be upon you for a sign. They own your head as, this is a sign. You're going into slavery, you can beat up, they're up against you because this is forever. This covenant does not run out. You let people tell you that, you better get in your word. This covenant is forever. So yes, the 400 years are over, but guess what? After this grace period or whatever, how long it's going to take for the people to get the word, because it's going to take some time for the people in the world to catch up to this, and then those who actually receive it, repent and say, yes, I want to start following your law, statutes, commandments. I want to start living for you and following your ways. When that time is over, and them ones that are still running around, it's gonna be back on. It's gonna be back on again. Because this is forever. We've seen us in and out of slavery for thousands of years, family. For thousands of years. This is just 400. We've been in and out of slavery because this contract is forever. He says, because you serve not your Yah. With gladness, with joy, you should be, oh man, for the abundance of all the things. Oh my goodness. We had the abundance. But we wanted to do what? Give us a king like we saw last week. Show it. We want to be like all the other nations. We want, serving other gods and all this kind of stuff. See that? Those are no gods at all. So the Most High is saying, okay, guys, can you read 49?
Yah shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou should not understand.
See that? See that? He says Yah is going to do it. Yah is going to bring a nation against you from far, from the end of the earth. This ain't talking about Assyria. This is not talking about Egypt or Mizraim. This is not talking about Babylon. All those places were in close proximity to one another. He says, I'm going to send a nation against you from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flies. And it means they're going to become fast. A nation whose tongue you will not understand. See what I mean about all these things compounding on one another? You start to realize, man, this is us. This is us. So why is this important? We talked about this last week, right? Our Romans 3, where it talks about what does it matter if you're a Jew? Paul tells us that it's chiefly because it was given into Yasharel, given to the Jews, the oracles. So he gave us the oracles. Remember that. That's why we're doing this, because we need to know who we are. The Most High is not. He hasn't forgotten. And he's telling you, and he's speaking in your heart and showing you who you are. You either receive it or you reject it. The choice is yours.